Here, a Sikh man wins the right to be cremated on a traditional outdoor funeral pyre.
Open-air funeral pyres. A Hindu man wins his appeal to be cremated here according to his traditional beliefs. A Hindu man has won the right to be cremated on a traditional funeral pyre. The Court of Appeal ruled that the wishes of Davender Gai can be carried out within existing legislation. Greg Wood has been following a case which raised controversial questions about the place of cultural traditions in Britain.
A traditional Hindu funeral. The body has to be burnt on a wooden pyre, open to the air and the sunlight, so the spirit can be released into the afterlife. It's this sort of funeral rite which will now be permitted in Britain. Spiritual healer Davender Gai had his original request for an open-air cremation refused by Newcastle City Council. But the Court of Appeal has now ruled that Mr Guy's wishes can be accommodated under the law.
I wasn't sure, whether I will have a good send-off. Now, I'm happy. Even if I go tomorrow, I know the lads will give me a good send-off.
During his 4-year campaign, Mr Guy organised this open-air Hindu funeral. It was illegal because it took place outside a crematorium. To comply with the law in future, ceremonies like this will have to be held in a more enclosed space. This appeal court ruling hinges on the legal definition of a building. Essentially, if a structure with no roof or open sides is considered by the law to be a building, then there's nothing to stop Hindus being cremated, as their religion dictates, on open-air wooden pyres within such a structure. The court was shown these images of a building in Spanish Morocco, which is used for open-air Hindu cremations. The plan now is to build structures like this in Britain. They'd need planning permission and they'd have to be licensed. It won't happen overnight, but this ruling opens the way for British people of all religions and none to request open-air cremations. Greg Wood, BBC News, at the Court of Appeal.
The healer has won the right to be cremated on a traditional funeral pyre, according to his beliefs. The Court of Appeal heard that 71-year-old Davender Guy's last wishes can be carried out within existing legislation.
A Hindu traditionalist has won a legal ruling giving him the right to be cremated in Britain on a funeral pyre. 71-year-old Davender Gai, who describes himself as a spiritual healer, was appealing against a decision by Newcastle City Council in 2006 refusing permission for such a ritual. In today's ruling, the Court of Appeal held that the pyre would be lawful if it included walls and a roof with an opening. Samira Ahmed reports.
A victory for human rights or for divisive religious fundamentalism. 71-year-old Davender Gai says he and his family have spent £45,000 trying to win the right to have a traditional Hindu funeral pyre on crematorium land, something Newcastle City Council had ruled illegal. But the Court of Appeal judges said it was compatible with the 1902 Cremation Act, and Mr Gai was keen to emphasise he's getting what other religions have been getting.
Like Muslims got the land in the crematorium. Jewish people got the land in the crematorium. That's what I was saying, give me a land in the crematorium or part of the building.
Crucially, the judges did not grant Mr Gai the right to a full open-air Indian-style cremation like this illegal one he organised in Northumberland 4 years ago.
I said, I want 4 pillars, a roof over it, sun to shine on my body, my son to light my fire, not a gas flame, wooden flame, and to collect the ashes, which he agreed and he gave it to me.
The Humanist Association, though, regards Mr Guy's case as a personal victory rather than a religious one, compatible with the consumer right to choose to have your ashes fired into space or a burial at sea. Newcastle City Council says the Ministry of Justice will have to rule on how, in practice, local authorities will accommodate Hindu funeral pyres and all the health and safety requirements that go with them.
Welcome to Look North. The headlines this Wednesday lunchtime. After years of fighting, a Hindu from our region finally wins his battle to have an open-air funeral pyre. A devout Hindu from Tyneside has won his fight in the Court of Appeal to have an open-air funeral pyre. 71-year-old Davender Gai was initially refused permission by Newcastle City Council 4 years ago. Today, judges ruled that funeral pyres are lawful. Shona Saga was at the Court of Appeal.
It took just a few moments for the Master of the Rolls, Lord Neuberger, to rule that Mr. Guy's wishes can be accommodated under current legislation. Mr. Guy, you must be thrilled.
I'm very pleased and I'm over the moon for what I've got. Because I always said that it's not unlawful and it could have been accommodated in the crematorium.
And this ruling is very important for you, isn't
Very,
it?
very important, because see, now I can know I can go peacefully and my soul will have peaceful rest.
But it all hinged upon the definition, the legal definition of a building.
Well, see, that's what the judge asked me, you know what I want. I said I want sun to shine on my body, my son to light the fire, and it should be wooden flame and not the gas, and the ashes to be collected on the same day.
But not necessarily out there in public for everyone to see.
No, I said it would be four walls, 4 pillars, no roof and wall for the privacy.
Well, it's been a really long and hard battle for you.
I think it's a start.
It's the beginning.
It's the
well,
beginning.
today's ruling is basically a paper victory, because for open-air funeral pyres to become a reality, many more practical issues have to be sorted out. Sharina Saga, BBC Look North, the Court of Appeal in London.
In the headlines on tonight's Look North, appeal court victory for the Hindu who wants to be cremated in the open air. Hello and welcome to Wednesday's Look North. Tonight, victory for the devout Hindu fighting for the right to an open-air funeral pyre that's breathed new life into an old man's dreams. Devout Hindu Devender Guy today won his bid for the right to be cremated on a traditional open-air funeral pyre. Judges said the pyre would be lawful, overturning a decision by Newcastle City Council in 2006. Reaction from the council in a moment, but first, Sharina Saga reports from the Court of Appeal in London.
It took 4 years and today just a few minutes in Court 71 for Devender Guy to be granted his last wish.
How do you feel?
Very, very happy. And I'm very grateful and thankful to the media, especially BBC. It has drained me physically, mentally and financially.
In the end, the ruling by the appeal court that open-air funeral pyres were lawful didn't boil down to offending sensibilities or indeed the environmental impact. It boiled down to what constitutes the legal definition of a building under the 1902 Cremation Act.
Photographs of natural cremation sites in Spain, Gibraltar and India were submitted in evidence. The Court of Appeal found that these structures could be called buildings because they were substantial, solid and relatively permanent.
They specifically said it needn't be a fully enclosed building. There may be pillars rather than walls. There may be an open roof or a canopy. There is a wide margin of flexibility.
This legal challenge has come a long way since Mr. Guy and his supporters carried out an outdoor cremation in Northumberland without Newcastle City Council's permission in 2006.
I said I want sun to shine on my body, my son to light the fire, and it should be wooden flame and not the gas, and the ashes to be collected on the same day. Because see, now I can know I can go peacefully and my soul will have peaceful rest.
Mr. Guy's ailing health gives his campaign an added urgency. Today he's won a paper victory, but from tomorrow the challenge of making this a practical reality begins. Sharina Saga, BBC Look North, the Court of Appeal in London.
Well, late this afternoon, Newcastle City Council gave this reaction to today's ruling.
We see this really as a national issue now as to how the government and DEFRA and government departments will address the particular issue. But I think all it means is that the building as he proposed is a building under the Cremation Acts, and after that any application would be subject to planning application and certainly environmental considerations.
Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchtime news from ITV Tyne Tees and Border. A devout Hindu from the region has won his court battle to be allowed a cremation on a traditional funeral pyre. Newcastle City Council originally ruled that the application by Devender Guy was not legal, but the appeal court has ruled that it is lawful and it'll take place within a building. The council says it'll still have to meet planning and environmental standards. Mr. Guy was delighted with the verdict.
Muslims got the land in the crematorium. Jewish people got the land in the crematorium. That's what I was saying, give me a land in the crematorium or part of the building, which they said no, but they just say yes, I should get it.